You are listening to Imperfect Fifth, a podcast, offbeat conversations with music industry humans that we love. Today's episode is brought to you by Easy Visibility. Let Aaron Zimmerman be your visibility guide and visual storyteller, currently serving entrepreneurs globally. And by Double Take Productions. We have no tagline, we're just twins who have been taking photos, shooting and editing film, event planning, and more together since 2010. Be sure to nab your Rainbow Kitten Surprise hoodie or crop sweatshirt in our shop. Check out imperfectfifth.com/merch to see all of our current merchandise options, including small batch handmade earrings. Today, we sit down with Morgan Geer to chat about his musical project Drunken Prayer, the buildup to his album release in April, and, of course, UFOs.
My name is Morgan Geer, American songwriter. I've toured internationally with the Hanson family and as a member of Freakwater and opening up for both of them. I play mostly solo, but I do band shows in different pockets around the country, mainly around Austin and Portland, Oregon, and then where I live now in Asheville, North Carolina. But like I said, I tour mostly solo or duo or sometimes as a small trio. I've lived in almost every part of the country. We moved around a lot when I was little. I was born in San Francisco. We immediately moved to Oregon after that, and then grew up in the Deep South around New Orleans and here in Mobile. Lived in Pittsburgh, Massachusetts. I mean, it goes on. It's kind of like that. It's kind of like that "I've Been Everywhere" song by Johnny Cash.
Oh yeah.
I've really been everywhere. So silver lining is, it's hard to name one place that's home, but it also everywhere is kind of home too. So I kind of feel like I get along with different types of people really well, just because I've had to growing up. I've got the newest album that's coming out is my, I think it's fourth or fifth full-length album. It was mixed by Mitch Easter of REM and Let's Active fame. My mother was a folk singer around New Orleans and Austin, Texas, and I grew up around that. My earliest memories are sitting at her feet while she played acoustic guitar and kind of a bunny rate kind of a thing going on. And that's where I kind of get it from, and it's kind of the only thing I do well, and so I've stuck with it. I will kind of honor that gift, because nothing else comes as easy as this does.
Oh, but that's so lucky, and it's so wonderful to have been part of a musical family growing up. That had to be amazing.
Yeah, her dad was in a Dixieland jazz band up until the day he died. Pretty much, he played everything: banjo, trumpet, trombone, clarinet. He was really, really great jazz musician. And his father before him was in the symphony. He was a conductor, and his wife was in the opera.
Oh my God.
So music is kind of the family business. Music and sailing.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but that's where it all kind of comes from.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm over here thinking, like, wondering why can't I be a musical talent? Oh, yeah, we can do those things.
Yeah, everybody's got their thing.
It's so true. I just wonder, was there ever a point growing up, being surrounded by all that music, where you, and I know you say that, like, since it's the thing that comes naturally to you, but was there ever a point where you were like, no, I don't want to do what the rest of my family has done, like, I want to do something opposite? Or did you ever try to rebel in any way?
I rebelled, but not that way, because like I said, it was being able to play music was also, because we moved around a lot, that was kind of my entryway into just being able to socialize with things. That's the one thing I could do well. I wasn't particularly good at sports, even though I tried to play them. So this is the one thing I could do to kind of like, it's kind of like my calling card. You know what I mean? So it was, I was really blessed that in my family, it was being a musician is an honorable pursuit and not just like kind of something, a distraction.
Right.
So the better musician in my family, you're kind of elevated in family status a little bit because because everybody plays a little bit of music. It's like like I said, it's more of it's an honorable pursuit. So I was always a sense of pride for me and something to drive me to be better, because I wanted to be talked about within my family like great grandparents were talked about and kind of lionized. Like I was like, well, like, wow, I want to have that part in my family Bible, kind of, you know.
Absolutely. You got to leave that legacy in there. It sounds like you probably have, though.
I feel like it. You know, I've having put out records and now toured around the world a couple of times. Now I was kind of just thinking about this yesterday. Now the only thing I have to prove is to myself, as opposed to trying to impress my family or friends, that it's finally come full circle. Is like, okay, just be as good as I can possibly be without worrying about what other people think about it. And I feel like this new record has kind of come along and kind of reflects that. I've been told that it seems like my recordings have finally caught up with my writing, and that up until now, the records have been a reflection of what I've written in the past, say like within like 5 years or so. So they haven't been as current as this one is. I was finishing these up as I was recording them, so it's what I'm writing right now, which I'm really kind of satisfied with.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, and that also makes us wonder, especially since you noted that that it's a little bit different than what you've done before. What was the recording process like for this album? Was it different for you? Or was it pretty similar, but the outcome was very different?
This one was different from the last one in that the last one was done almost all online as far as the mixing process went. So I was going back and forth via emails about details, which on one level is good because I didn't feel like typing out every concern I had. So it kind of kept my input had to be a little more blunt than just I didn't allow myself to get into the minutia of maybe we can tweak this or tweak that. It was which was nice having those kind of limitations. But on the other hand, it took forever if you're just dealing with email going back and forth. With this one, I was in the studio while it was all going on, so it was a faster process. This one was a really easy record to make, which for me, it's kind of like when I'm writing a song. The ones that come really easily, I'm at first a little distrustful of, because I wonder, am I just being lazy by not putting any more into it? But they 9 times out of 10 end up being like, no, they're perfect just like they are. And the more I labor over something, the more kind of convoluted and kind of just kind of messy the songs can get. Whereas the whole process has been like that when you're writing a song. It's been really easy. And the back of the devil on my shoulder is like, you know, what are you missing? You know, why isn't this harder? Why isn't there more pushback? But the angel on my shoulder is saying, like, let it go. This is good. We're fine. You know,
it should be easy.
You know,
okay.
Yeah, you can, you know, just you're good. call it good, and don't worry about it, and just sit back and enjoy it. So I've really been enjoying the process with this record. It's been so incredibly easy. Even from the recording was done in one room with not a whole lot of overdubs, just kind of basic meat and potato kind of stuff. So there's no crammed like big horn parts or strings or stuff like that. It's all pretty straightforward, traditional instruments. And it just worked out. And there's no sprawling epic songs. Like sometimes I get myself into trouble writing where I write these really long songs where they really could be 2 or 3 just normal songs.
No, but why? Why when you can make them long?
Yeah. So I've been really happy with how easy the process has been, even up through, and it hasn't even been released yet, and everything's been going really well. Like I said, the devil on my shoulder is waiting for the other boot to drop. Just like, where's the pushback? Maybe there isn't going to be one.
I think he'll be fine. I really do at this point.
I think the hard part's over now. It's just kind of sit back and hope people like it and go out and play shows. So that's I'm not going to say that's the fun part, because I like being in the studio, so I would never leave if it was up to me. But now I get to go play shows and kind of like try these new songs out. And so far, I've done some pre-release shows, and so far the response has been really positive. So you never know.
Oh, that's so great. Which of the upcoming tracks, or is there one that you either have performed live and are really, really digging it, or are really excited about performing it live for your audience?
The title song, Cordelia, I think it's the second song on the album, as around the world people seem to respond to it. I wrote it as a personal thing. It's roughly about gentrification. I try not to get too specific about anything so that people can kind of relate to whatever the song is. But it's my two towns, Asheville, North Carolina, and Portland, Oregon, are both they're pricing out the artists that live there and made them kind of interesting to start off with. They're getting too expensive to live. And it's just about kind of like, well, there's kind of musical chairs of people I know and myself kind of looking for, okay, well, where can I move now? that hasn't been discovered yet. That still has a nurturing art scene, but that artists can actually afford to live in. It's a song about that. And so that, I think that, kind of resonates with people no matter where you live. And it's like, how do I survive in a place that's interesting? It's kind of like catch-22. People want to live in interesting places, and so they get expensive. So what do you do? And that kind of sense of, that kind of sense of like kind of this kind of, it's not exactly wanderlust, because I would love to find a place to just be, but it kind of forces you to move around a little bit if that's the kind of community you want to live in, and you don't have just like all the money in the world. Like Portland is ridiculously expensive. We're lucky to live in Asheville. I grew up there, and so I've got a huge network. So that's it's not so bad for us, but I know for other people who don't have the opportunities that I have to move if they wanted to. Like I could move, I could afford to move.
Right.
There's plenty of people out there that are just screwed. The middle class is being scooped out. I think that's the bottom line.
So true. And it's and I know Portland is one of the places that has been affected a lot more recently. And I'm one of those people that originally had wanted to move to the Pacific Northwest, and now so many awesome things are happening for Kansas City, but I'm also seeing where we're starting to slowly trickle into that same mindset. And I'm like, no.
Yeah, well, and it's demonstrable, it's the same process happens everywhere. You can just name the city. Every state's got at least one of those like hip towns in it, whether it's Tucson, Minneapolis, or Portland, or just name it, and they're all kind of being priced out. And it seems like we could come up with a better way of living in these cities beyond just having service jobs.
Touché.
Or whatever, so, but that's not my job. I just report on it. So
it's good to address important things with your music, so I'm glad that you are to some extent. Mm-hmm. It's greatly appreciated, actually.
Yeah, I don't often write about topical stuff because sometimes they don't age well. Mm-hmm. Topical songs, I think you have to be a really special artist to have something that writes about what's going on right now, but also stands the test of time. The Dylans of the world and the Woody Guthries of the world, and that's not my forte. I'm usually better at a little more vague things that you have to kind of connect the dots yourself, and which I like those kind of songs because it makes it personal. Like, oh, you're writing just about me.
Absolutely. And you get people thinking a little bit more than something where it's just like, yes, they're telling us their exact story and we don't have to go introvert too much on it.
Yeah, I rarely want to read someone else's diary. It's just like, okay, you got your issues. That's
well, yeah, no, absolutely. I do wonder, besides your family's music and everything you were surrounded by as a child in that sense, is there a memory that you have of perhaps one of the first songs or albums that you played as a child? And I wonder from that memory if that particular musician or that particular song or album has any influence on how you sing in your career now.
That's an interesting question, because my first memory of music is, like I said, was I was sitting at my mom's feet she was filming something for Louisiana Public Television, and they had a sandbox. I remember like it was yesterday. I was probably 3 or 4, while she was singing folk songs, and there's probably by this guy Dave Van Runk. He has a song that lots of people done called "Come Back Baby," and that's probably the first song I remember hearing, and also from her playing it with records. And it was just a super old, well, not too old, but folk song, kind of bluesy. And she would also listen to this guy, Willis Allen Ramsey, this kind of obscure songwriter. So only really put out one album, and both of them were famous in their own circles, but in the greater public lexicon, a little lesser known. Dave Van Runk is probably more well known. But it's funny because I've never really gravitated towards folk music necessarily, or at least as a genre. I mean, everything is kind of folk music, I guess, if you want to put it like that. You know what I mean? But there's something about the seriousness of that music, and she was also into like Chicago blues and stuff. And I remember as a kid, I loved the Beatles. They're an easy one to like, Yellow Submarine and whatnot, and I still do. But when I first became aware of blues, and to a lesser extent bluegrass, that music really scared me. I was like, these are grown-ups. I'm talking about grown-up things that I'm not too sure, like death and like really, really heavy stuff. And so it was intimidating. That's the first time I was ever really, I think, moved in a serious way by music, is listening to like Muddy Waters or something like that, where I guess it really kind of, it frightened me. Not like I was afraid to go to sleep, like I was afraid of them personally, but I was just afraid of the things that they were singing about. Like, this is grown ass stuff right here, you know. So, yeah, that's a long answer to a short question, I guess. But you know, like heavy folk music really had an impact on me early on.
Wow. No, I mean, and it's important to be able to trace back and see where some of that inspiration came from. So I love hearing the array of different answers. Of course, that I have found in some of my favorite acts that I've interviewed, it's been a lot of either Beatles or Clapton, and I respect the hell out of all of it. So thank you for sharing that with me.
Sure.
Yeah. So I wonder, just because you do, as you had mentioned previously, you do travel with other acts, and you worked a lot of solo, but you also, have worked with other musicians. And so I wonder, are there any things that you love about working with other musicians that you don't necessarily get to do as a solo act, or vice versa?
Yeah, it's funny because I go back and forth so often that if I do one or the other for very long, I'll start to miss the other one. So if I have a long string of solo shows, it's like, I can't wait to play the band again. And then mainly because I miss that interaction and the chemistry, and that's assuming you're playing. I'm lucky to play with people I respect, and so I like the decisions other people make with my music, because they'll take it places I hadn't thought of. And so to me, I get a real charge out of that. It's more of a visceral reaction, excitement. Whereas playing solo, I'm completely free to stop a song, to speed it up, to slow it down, to add and take things away. I can really play with the music a lot more, but I don't get that visceral reaction of just rocking out. I just kind of, it's not a head-banging experience by any stretch of the imagination. And then on the other hand, playing with a band, sometimes you can steamroll through songs. So it's like, oh man, there's a lot more dynamics that I can do when I'm playing solo. I can even just like start talking and stuff in the middle of the song. So both have I'm lucky that I get to do both, and it's really out of necessity. If I could afford to keep a band on the road all the time, I probably would.
Yeah.
But I've come to really appreciate playing solo. It was a steep learning curve. Not a learning curve, but it's when Freakwater went over to Europe. I had the chance to open the majority of those shows, but I could only do it if I played solo, just because of the nature of how practical it was. Like, well, I'm not going to miss this opportunity to play my songs in Europe for a couple of months. So It was just one show at a time. I had to figure out how to do it and not just freak out on stage. Because it's also nerve. It's weird being on stage by yourself singing songs. I to this day, I have to stop myself from thinking about it as I'm performing, like how weird it is to be performing on stage and singing. Like, why are these people listening to me? Why am I'm singing because I'm not that naturally outgoing. Like, here I am singing to people on stage. It's really, really bizarre, but I'm kind of more comfortable up there than I am in normal life anyway. I certainly wouldn't walk into a room full of people and start singing. I'd rather do almost anything.
Well, and yet.
But somehow, right, and yet here I am. This is all I've ever done, and I can do it in front of 1,000 people. No problem.
Your recent single "Science" has a little bit of an edge to it. I just wondered what inspired that track, or do you have any anecdotes of when you were recording it that you'd like to share?
I kind of always have had my feet in two kind of semi-political worlds. Like, having grown up in the Deep South, I was kind of thinking that like the people who don't recognize science or the scientific findings, and so like scientific method versus faith, to me has always been a really interesting question, and where they overlap is a really magic place to me, is where science and faith meet. And so that song is kind of me talking to myself about, just because it's science doesn't mean it's not also miraculous.
Right.
And on the other hand, just because you don't believe in something doesn't mean it's unbelievable. And those are literally the words of the songs. I was basically just writing out what I was thinking. So it's kind of like seeing that debate from both sides and having empathy for both sides, and maybe that's where the Venn diagram meets, somewhere in the middle between those. And as far as the music goes, it's just the cadence of the words just kind of directed which way the song goes. On that, it just has kind of like a cool late 70s disco rock kind of feel to it, kind of roller skating music. So I whenever I have words that have maybe some more weight to them, to me it's fun to put them in more of a light musical setting. You know what I mean? That way it doesn't get bogged down in this kind of like navel gazing, why is the sky blue kind of thing. It's like, well, that's, it's like sophomore year philosophy. I try to stay away from that as much as possible.
That's fair. That's fair enough.
Yeah.
Because you've spent so much time in the South, and because you are talking about, at least what we were just talking about, meaning like just because you haven't seen something happen doesn't mean it's not real type of stuff. Have you ever found any connection to like the magic or the mysticism that is like that the South is engulfed in? Have you ever experienced anything that you would say is perhaps magic, or do you have any thoughts on that type of, I guess, it's a weird thing to ask just because I originally was going to ask you about Sasquatch, but you were talking about the South and everything so poetically. But now I'm like, wait a second. Is there any part of you that believes in the mysticism and magic that did originate down there, or do you think it's kind of silly, or?
That's a really interesting question, because when I first found out about this interview, I was kind of reading through it, and I asked Howard, my publicist, like, did you find this one just for me? And he asked why. Because I said, well, because I and a friend of mine kind of I put run in air quotes, Western North Carolina Paranormal Society.
No way.
And yes. So, but getting back to your, I've seen UFOs on lots of different occasions. Some of them semi-explainable, others that there's no. I've been in contact with MUFON. I go back with them and stuff. And my partner in this, his expertise, you can call it, is in Bigfoot area. And so we go out into the woods, and Western North Carolina is kind of a hot spot for that kind of thing. Also for you, like the Brown Mountain Lights, and there's lots of UFO sightings and Bigfoot kind of interaction. We've had some Sasquatch interaction out there too. But to get back to like your question is really interesting. I hadn't really put that two and two together. That well, because I kind of grew up not as hardcore as some of my family, but grew up Southern Irish Catholic, and I really love the pageantry. I really love the incense and the theater of the whole thing as a child before you really start getting into theology. Right. And that kind of mysticism, Catholicism has it gets really close to voodoo sometimes, which I also think is pretty interesting too. It's like real, just it gets kind of spooky sometimes, and that has always interested me from day one. That kind of what's beyond the veil, there's something more than meets the eyes going on here. I always had a suspicion. And when I saw a UFO as a little kid with dozens of my little friends, it kind of confirmed. I was like, oh, there is something else going on. Possibly it's man-made, but this is like, it was too weird to kind of wrap your mind around. Right. As it still kind of is. So I think I was open in the first place to a suggestion, open to like not just dismissing if you see something weird because like, well, that's weird, I'm not going to think about it anymore. Or, you know what I mean? Like we had the house we live in North Carolina, the water faucet just turned on all by itself one day.
No.
Yeah, freaky. Yeah, it was freaky, and it makes like a squeaky sound, like you would have to. So I called a friend of mine who's a plumber. That night I was so kind of freaked out, and he was like, "Man, there's no way that could happen." So things like that. I think if you're naturally kind of just fine with that idea, and you're not too creeped out about it, or not too closed-minded, that you're more likely to kind of recognize it when you see it, as opposed to just dismissing. Like, that's just the thing in the sky, I'm not going to think about it. And go back to my life.
Right.
So I think maybe I was kind of primed to recognize that there's more going on in the world and the universe than what meets our kind of humble eyes.
When you have had these sightings, was there ever, like, when you were seeing it, did you realize it was this crazy phenomenon? Like, did you have like a body reaction? Like, did your heart race? Did you know it was something, or did you have to be told later? Was it something that people had to like kind of like talk at? Like, I wonder what that feeling is like when it happens.
It's the most disconcerting thing about it is that it's so kind of every day, because there's not like trumpets like you're about to see something crazy. It's kind of like it's seeing something, not like a bad car crash, but when you see two cars run into each other, you're like, well, that just happened right in front of me without any kind of warning. And so you're left to kind of process it afterwards. When you see something like the few times I've seen UFOs, it's so matter of fact that is kind of disconcerting. It's like, did that just happen? That it takes. It's the processing that can be disconcerting. At the time, it's just so matter of fact that you just hope someone else saw it too. So it's like, do my eyes deceive me kind of a thing, because there's no warning, it's there and then it's gone, and you're still there too. So I've had 4 different UFO experiences, and each one been completely different. Like none were repeated. 2 were the MUFON people I talked to said they could have been they were explainable, so they were kind of dismissed. The other two were completely unexplainable. And then things like so when we go out into the woods, we had a tree knock experience with Sasquatch, and that was more disconcerting because you're out in the woods and it's happening over the span of an entire night. To where we were in a place where it was not hunting season, and it was against a national forest. There's a national forest. So there's no trails back there, and we were in a really secluded place, and we heard what sounded like a baseball bat hitting a tree, like in rhythm, like knock, 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 knock. Whoa. And then it would be 100 yards, 90 degrees to the left, a couple hours later. And then at 4 a.m, it's over on the other side and getting closer. And that's just really hard to explain unless it's just like hillbillies out there, but
right.
or hermits. The only explainable thing would be like a hermit with a moonshine still trying to scare you away or something.
Right.
So, I don't go into these things with just like complete head in the clouds. I go into them as like, let's explain it first, and then.
How do you prepare to even do that? You're killing me.
Well, I try to figure out like what else could this be. It's like okay, and then try to figure out if that in fact is what it was. So, and things like the tree knocks, there's no way of really figuring out. We went out looking around for footprints, didn't see anything. It just is what it is. And so I'm kind of fine with the mystery too. I don't have to figure it out. But I guess why, the bigger question is why people do this in the first place. And then to me, it's a kind of wanting an affirmation that it is a bigger world out there, that there's a lot more mystery than we're aware of. And maybe that comes from the Catholic upbringing too.
Oh yeah, probably.
Like just an affirmation. It's like, yeah, you're right to be skeptical that this is all there is.
Right. Oh my gosh.
It's a strange world.
you when you go out into the wilderness and you don't know where I'm always very, very careful when I go camping, and I'm thinking about you in the past walking basically into your own like horror film, just being like, this is fine.
Well, the friend of mine I do it with, that worked for me because I would have just been, I would have been pretty scared if I'd been by myself. So he's a forester, so he knew the woods really well, those woods particularly. So he worked in the woods, and so that gave me the confidence that he was there and he's good. I'm not very outdoorsy. I can maybe make a fire, but the fact that I was with him is like I felt pretty safe. The interesting thing is that since then my friend has kind of turned from that they're benign to where they're not things to be messed with at all. Yeah. So it's like, okay, well, and honestly, if there is some kind of wild animal out there, you should be careful.
Right.
It's not Harry and the Hendersons if this thing is a real thing.
Oy vey, man.
I know, isn't it crazy?
You've done some cool stuff though. Like I'm jealous, but I'm also like, thank goodness it wasn't me.
Yeah, you never know. I guess the whole Bigfoot thing I was a little more skeptical of because I'd never really had any experiences before that tree knock thing, and so I was kind of like, okay, man, I trust you because you're my friend and you don't have any reason to lie to me. But I also know I know lots of people that have lots of crazy ideas. Like, okay, I'm willing to kind of humor people to an extent. And so this was kind of, let's go camping and have throw a little spice into it, and that there's a little mystery that we're trying to solve. And then when I actually did hear the tree knock, I was like, oh, okay. Maybe we should rethink right, this is starting to be pretty creepy. And in Western North Carolina, people have lots of crazy experiences with orbs, like following them around and things like that, which I've never experienced. But I've seen they're like the Brown Mountain lights. I don't know if you've ever heard of those, but there's like these lights that appear on the mountainside that kind of move in weird weird directions. It's all in the same area around there.
So nice.
Some kind of, maybe the veil is thinner around there between this world and others. Who knows?
That'd be so cool.
I love the mystery, you know. After I saw the UFOs when I was a kid, like all bets were off. Like, sure, I'm open-minded as can be.
Right.
After you see something like that, like, well, who am I to say?
Right.
Because what I saw sounds crazy as hell. So
wow.
that's it.
Wow. I'm sorry.
There's a lot to unwrap there. There's a lot. I actually have a song from my last record, or the one before last, called "I Saw It with My Own Two Eyes."
Yeah.
Which is basically about that experience, but it goes into where when the first ships came to shore in the States, the regular Native Americans didn't even recognize them as ships. They didn't really even see them on the horizon because they didn't have any reference to them. But it took the shamans to recognize it as like, yeah, these are weird crafts. Maybe they're gods coming from across the ocean. But it was interesting to me that some people didn't even see the ships at all because there was just it was so alien to them that there was just like, does not compute.
Right.
And so they're just kind of blind to them. And I wonder if some of that kind of stuff isn't going on in modern day. If you live in a haunted house or something, you just don't even notice it because, like, no, my brain is not going to let me go there.
Right.
But if you're interested, that song "I Saw It with My Own Two Eyes" kind of goes into that experience.
Absolutely. I'll be listening to that right after this interview. I do just want to ask real fast, is there anything, of course, besides the album we'll be plugging, but is there anything else you would like to share with the audience today?
Gosh, that's a big question. I don't know. I listen to the record, see what you think. Well, you know, so this was done basically DIY, which to me is interesting because it's the best sounding thing I've done. I just had to save a little bit of money. It didn't cost as much as I thought it was going to. So I'm going without a label on this one.
Uh-huh.
And how I was intimidated at first and still am as I'm booking this 4 months long tour by myself on my own. But it's not as hard as you think. You can, anybody can do this. Anybody can make great records or film or art or anything. Just don't be intimidated by the machine that puts this stuff out. You can do it by yourself. You just have to have good songs or good art, or just like keep your brushes clean. and it doesn't take being on a label these days. The double-edged sword is that anybody can do it, and the good thing is anybody can do it, and the bad thing is anybody can do it. But it's within reach of putting out. I'm so proud of this record. That's the only reason I say that. Is like, if I can put out a record that sounds this good, anybody can on their own. As long as you like what you're doing, and you have kind of a love for it, then it doesn't really matter what anybody thinks.